This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, my name is Christina Winstead, and I'm the Assistant Director for Outreach at the Washington Student Achievement Council. I work with the 12th Year Campaign. Today, we're going to talk about how to request a financial aid appeal. This is a situation I know a lot of students are in right now, and so we'll have information today to help you request an appeal and to determine if you qualify for an appeal. So today, we're going to learn about what a financial aid appeal is, who should request one, how to request one, and what your next steps and some resources to help you with the process are. So first, we want to make sure you understand that with a financial aid appeal, it allows the financial aid office to change your financial aid circumstances based upon information that you provide. It's a federal law that allows them to do this. Each school has their own process on how to assess these changes, and they have their own requirements. So if you have applied to multiple schools and your financial situation has changed, you're going to want to make sure you connect with the schools that you applied to if you haven't committed to one of them. And so what it is it's your way of telling the financial aid office, hey, you know what? My financial circumstances have changed. It could be that your cost of attendance has gone up or that your family has a different income than what you have listed on the FAFSA or WAFSA. As we know with the financial aid application, the information you provide is to your previous taxes. So if you applied for financial aid for this fall, you provided 2018 taxes, and we know that your financial situation may have changed. You can also use this process to request emergency grants, especially due to COVID-19. So if your financial situation has changed, especially after you've filled out your financial aid application, and this can be due to COVID-19 or any other circumstance, we want to make sure that you assess yourself for a financial aid appeal. This can help cover other things that might not be covered by your financial aid right now. So if you're a current college student and let's say you had to go home from college because of COVID-19 and you were utilizing the computer lab, but now don't have access to that technology that you need to be successful in school. Sometimes you can petition to your school to have a cost of attendance change so that you can get additional funding for technology that you need that you were using on campus, as well as any other financial emergency that you may have. I encourage you, whenever you have a financial emergency, let's say your car broke down or something like that happens, a medical emergency, please reach out to your financial office to see if they have some sort of emergency grant. It's not something that you're going to use on an every single time basis. So an emergency is like a one-time thing. It's not that every month, the emergency is that your power bill's due, but it's that your car broke down. Reach out and see. There are emergency grants that are out there, but sometimes it takes a little digging to find them. So to request a financial aid appeal, and this can be at any point in the process, you're going to need to connect with the financial aid department of the colleges you applied to. So you can go to their website, you can email them. I know a lot of campuses are not in person right now, but emailing works really well and calling. There's another tool to help you guide yourself through the financial aid appeal process and create some really cool templates and compelling appeal letters that are very robust. It's called Swift Student, and so it's a free tool. It doesn't share your data with any other third parties. They get Google Analytics just to see what people are using, but the templates are all yours to use for free. And it basically asks you some questions in very plain language and then translates that into a wonderful financial aid letter that you're going to attach some supporting documentation to. But your first step is to check with your school to see what you need to provide. Here are some of the appeals that are available through Swift Student. So they can help with things like, let's say, you're in a situation where you've been determined as dependent on the financial aid application, but your situation is that you cannot provide parent information because, let's say, your parents incarcerated, or you have no contact at all with your parents, and getting in contact with them is actually a danger to you. Things like that you can actually ask to be considered independent instead of dependent. So it'd be called a dependency override. Changes to financial income. So if your family has experienced a decrease in income, especially a significant decrease, and we've seen that with COVID-19, you want to connect with your financial aid office to see if they can do an adjustment on your income and show a more accurate picture of what your family is making. Other emergencies, you can also use this tool if you've missed the deadline for financial aid and you want to be able to include a letter with your application to the school. Sometimes that can help as well. It covers a lot of different things. And so anything on here, this fits your situation, I encourage you to go to their website to assess yourself to see what tool you can use through Swift Student. It's very easy to use. I love this because I don't know about you, but sometimes writing a formal letter can be hard. Where do I start? I can use a Word template, but is that really what I need? This is all put into the words that financial aid officers need to make a determination, but the way they ask the questions are not going to be formal. So they're going to use plain language instead of kind of the language we use in financial aid offices. It's going to ask you some basic information. What's today's date? What's your name? What term are you asking for an appeal? A big one is it's going to ask what official name do you use for your school records. So especially what name did you use when you applied for financial aid? So for the FOSFL or for the WAFSA. That way they can match your name to the information that they have. So if your admissions application has a preferred name versus the legal name that is on your financial aid application, you're going to put your legal name in this, especially if you're in the process of changing your name until they change it over, and then you can change it with the financial aid office. It's going to ask which academic term you're asking for an appeal. So it's going to be the start and end year of the academic term. So if it's for this upcoming year, it's going to be the term of 2020, 2021. That's going to ask you which situation is not captured in your financial aid application. So on this tool, it is a tool for all students throughout the US. So they're going to say a lot about FOSFA, but when we use these tools, we are talking about FOSFA and WAFSA. So if you completed a WAFSA, it's okay. You can still use this tool even though it just says FOSFA on there. And so it's going to ask you and give you some examples of what circumstances could be utilized in an appeal. And so in here, you can select the circumstance that you're experiencing. So I put in here, my parent was laid off due to COVID-19. We now make less than we did in 2018. Very easy. There's a lot of options in there that you can use. The other thing that they're going to ask you for is supporting documentation to show that you are in that situation. So you can provide different types of supporting documentation. And for this process, I'd encourage you to include a layoff notice or a WARN notice. And you can always reach out to the school to see which supporting documentation would be best to provide. An important piece about supporting documentation is that when you send something to the financial aid office, they're going to keep those documents and typically not return them to you. So please don't send official original documents. You can do copies of those documents because you're going to want to keep and retain those original documents. So then when you list out the documentation, so on here, like a father's notice from work and an unemployment stub is what I've put in here. It's going to list it right into the letter, and then you're going to attach that information. And as you can see here in the letter, it's now included, my parent was laid off due to COVID-19. Now we make less. For your consideration, attach supporting documentation, including my father's notice from work and unemployment stubs. Now you have the option to download the letter. So you can download this letter in Word or as a PDF. I encourage Word because then you can keep it and play with it just in case you're applying to multiple schools. And then the next piece is to save and export it. And then after that, the second page of the letter is going to have a record of financial aid conversations. So anytime you work with a financial aid officer, and it's hard because sometimes you're making a phone call and it's hard to remember everything that was said in the phone call. The nice thing about this is it's just a little log, and you can use this for not just financial aid, but for other things. And you can put down the date that you contacted financial aid, that you sent an email or received an email or spoke over the phone or met in person, who you talked to, what they told you, what you need to do to get a decision, and any other resources that are available. That way, you just kind of have a log of everything you did to remind you of what your next steps are going to be. So again, I really encourage you in this process, don't be afraid to ask questions, ask for help from your financial aid offices. Your financial aid officers are there to help. They want to help you, but if you don't ask questions, they don't know that you have them. Unfortunately, they are not psychic. If they were, they would be in other jobs probably, but they need to know when you have questions. So you have to advocate for yourself and ask them. Hold on to those original documents, especially the supporting documentation. They will not return those to you. And so you need to keep those copies. Just send them a copy, but keep the originals. Keep track of those conversations, especially with financial aid and any other office that you're working with, so that you know what your next steps are and if you've completed them. Check your school email address every day. I'm not talking about your high school email address. I'm talking about the email address that you provided to the college that you're going to. Please remember that your high school email address, after you graduate, typically you won't have access to it. If you use that email address, it's time to update it to your own email address that maybe is professional and doesn't make an admissions officer blush. But if you don't check your email, you may miss notification from them. And finally, ask those financial aid officers to direct you to other resources, especially if their appeals are rejected. See if there's other scholarships that are available or other funding sources that might be able to support you during this time. Another resource that you have is through our Washington Student Achievement Council page. It's our financial aid appeal page, and the link's right here at the bottom. It has more information about financial aid appeals and how to get assistance, and also contact information for our student financial aid office. Please reach out if you have any questions. We're here to help you. Thank you so much for learning more about financial aid appeals. And if you have questions, let us know.